The Department of Meteorology and Atmospheric Science here at Penn State has a vast alumni network, and we're lucky enough when some of our alumni come back to visit. And tonight we have that for you here. Joining us on Weather Watercooler is 2013 graduate Heather Waldman. She may look familiar to some of you out there. Heather, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be back. So nice to be back on campus, see what's changed, but also see a lot's stayed the same.
Well, it's great to have you here. You were very involved in things at Weather World when you were here as a student. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But what have you done since you graduated in 2013?
So I didn't go far initially. When I graduated in winter of 2013, I hopped right over to AccuWeather. I was an on-camera meteorologist there for some of their live-to-tape work and eventually the AccuWeather network. Stayed there for 3 years and then hopped one state over. Went to Buffalo, New York. I was there for 5 years. Working primarily as the evening meteorologist, so I handled the forecast at, I think it was 4, 5, 6, 10, and 11 when I was there. Lake effect snow, all that good stuff. Beautiful summers in Buffalo, by the way, and wonderful sports atmosphere too. And then from there, hopped over to California. I never thought I would be in Buffalo. I never thought I would be in California, but I wound up following my now husband out for his job in Northern California, and I'm now at KCRA, the Hearst-owned NBC affiliate in Sacramento.
And what do you do there?
I am the evening meteorologist there, Monday through Friday, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, lots of news. Not a whole lot of snow, at least not down in the valley, but we do cover up to the Tahoe area, so just a really vast forecast area. Do the regular forecast, do some reporting as I come across stories that I find interesting. So it's been a fun go.
So you moved, as you said, from Buffalo to Sacramento. How different, and I know the answer to this, but tell us how different it is to forecast for Buffalo versus Sacramento.
This is going to sound like an exaggeration, but for my first few months in Northern California, I feel like I moved to a different planet. Right, so I spent the first 30 years of my life in the Northeast. I'm from Pennsylvania. I went to school in Pennsylvania. My first job was in Pennsylvania, and New York wasn't all that far away. We're used to it raining or snowing every 2, 3, 4 days. I know much of the fall here it really hasn't been, but in an ordinary season, we have precipitation to talk about at least once in a 7-day forecast. In Northern California, we go through a stretch of at least 4 or 5 months where it doesn't rain at all. That took a lot of getting used to. But also, there are some similarities between Buffalo and Northern California. Buffalo, you've got your lake effect snow, which is the ultimate microclimate. You've got one spot not getting any snow. You go 5 miles to the south, they're getting 2 inches of snow every hour. That's just how lake effect snow works. California has its microclimates too. You're at the coast, it's 65 to 70 degrees. You go an hour inland into the valley, it's 105 degrees. You go up into the Sierra, it's in the 80s, maybe there's thunderstorms. So just learning how to talk about all of those microclimates. Very similar, but very different.
So you also, at your current station, in the past have done a lot of climate reporting. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Right, so one of the things I learned while I was at Penn State was, as a meteorologist, yes, you're there to talk about weather, but you are also the trusted station scientist. You are probably one of the only people in the newsroom that has that science background, where maybe you're not an astronomer, maybe you're not an expert in earthquakes, but guess what? You're probably the person in your station that knows the most about that. The same thing goes with climate reporting. So I was first asked to start producing climate content. My second job when I was in Buffalo, continued that on in Sacramento, and my thing is always, am I a climate scientist by training? No. Can I find community quote-unquote experts who can tell their story, whether it's a farmer, whether it is someone who runs a ski resort, anything like that? They know it best. If they've been doing it 30 to 40 years, they know how the weather has changed. They can speak to it from their own experience. So that's really where I've tried to base my climate storytelling. You find the people that can tell the story for you. I'm there to back up the science.
So I'm going to step back a little bit. Your time at Penn State, not only were you on Weather World during your final year here at Penn State, but you also, from the day you walked in the door, you started working behind the scenes here at Weather World. I'm just curious, how did that prepare you for this career that you've just taken off on?
Well, so it gave me my first experience, first of all, in editing for a show that was actually going to air on TV somewhere. So give me that producing experience, the hitting the buttons behind the scenes. But Weather World, while it wasn't my first on-air experience, it was my first live experience, right? Where, okay, you get one shot, whereas everything else I had done was, if you mess up, you can just do it again. Nope, one take and you've got to fit it in this certain amount of time. So that was kind of my first low pressure experience to get that in, because that is a thing where until you're forced to think about time constraints and you've got one shot, it is that little added layer of pressure. So it was good to get that in here in a safe space with a wonderful audience too.
All right. Now, you've lived in some pretty spectacular places when it comes to covering weather. Do you have any memorable weather events that you can think of?
I can't think of any one specifically, but I do have photos in both Buffalo and in my Northern California market, because we cover all the way up to Lake Tahoe, which is 6,200 feet at lake level, but goes up to like 8,500 feet in the mountains. I have photos from both markets where I am reaching up like this and the snow is still several feet above my head. And growing up in the Philadelphia area, you don't see that.
Yeah.
And unless you've stood next to a snow pile that big, it's just like, wow. But I think it's just, what's most memorable for me is kind of just the sheer difference, and we already kind of covered it, Northeast versus Northern California, getting to experience those two very different zones.
And speaking of memories, at the end of these segments, we always like to ask our alumnus who's here, what is your favorite memory from your time at Penn State?
Again, I don't think I have a single memory, but when I think of my time at Penn State, I think of late night study sessions in the Weather Center. I think of, messing around with my friends living in Irvin Hall, in West Halls. I think of those moments of community and camaraderie, and just the nostalgia is what I look on fondly.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your vacation to come and talk to us here on Weather World. We appreciate all the time you spent with us so many years ago, but also here today.
And I appreciate everything the team here did for me.
All right. Well, thank you. Heather Waldman, meteorologist at KCRA in Sacramento, California. And we'll be back in a moment with more.